Hope everyone is having a great week. From time to time we get really interesting questions in regards to billing and CPT codes, and one that we get on a fairly regular basis is having to do with CPT codes that are in particular sections of the CPT guidelines. And some of these challenges come into play from different providers from time to time, and from payers, and then even from chiropractic physicians just wondering if they can bill a particular CPT code. So for this particular conversation, really we're going to ignore scope of practice. Not because it's important, but I'm going to assume that the services you're providing in your office, you're fully trained for and fall within the scope of practice of a chiropractic physician. So after that, really then we begin to look at the code itself and the CPT guidelines and what you can and cannot do. So what happens is sometimes we'll have a physical therapist challenge one of our doctors and say, you can't bill that code. That is in the physical therapy section of the CPT guidelines. Or we may have a payer say, you can't bill those particular laboratory or pathology codes because they fall under that section, so they have to be performed by a pathologist or by a specific lab or whatever the case might be. That couldn't be further from the truth. And so there is actually a paragraph at the beginning of the CPT guidelines put up by the AMA that we have our doctors use on a regular basis. And I'll give you that quote right now. And how it reads is, it is important to recognize that the listing of a service or procedure and its code number in a specific section of this book does not restrict its use to a specific specialty group. Any procedure or service in any section of this book may be used to designate the services rendered by any qualified physician or any other qualified healthcare professional. And so what this means is, as long as you're qualified, as long as it falls within your scope of practice, you're trained to be able to do this, then in those instances, you would be able to bill those codes that most closely resemble the service that you're performing in your office. And so regardless of what section it falls in, regardless of whether or not it's in the physical therapy section, regardless of whether or not it's in the lab or the pathology section, it doesn't really matter. If that code most closely resembles the service that you're performing in your office, and you meet the other qualifications, standard of care, scope of practice, etc., then you can bill that code. And I love that section. We actually use it at the Capitol when we get challenges and questions in regards to what our doctors can and cannot bill. And it's been incredibly successful for us and has opened many, many doors. So hopefully that helps you out this week, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you.